My name is Caroline Wainwright, and I'm the head of strategic accounts here at Zencargo, and the lucky person who gets to host this session today. So we're talking about legacy systems being left behind and why change is easier than firefighting. So just by way of sort of setting the scene, I think we've seen that the challenges of the past few years have revealed weaknesses in legacy systems, particularly when it comes to dealing with disruptions in supply chain, issues around lack of visibility, not being able to make decisions, bad data or a lack of live tracking, leave us unable to be agile. So in a changing market, modern supply chains really require real-time data, visibility and collaboration to keep up. But it's often the case that businesses lack the time that they need to implement these changes. And in the current economic downturn, a lot of businesses face a choice to either keep things as they are or to evolve, ready to return with systems that are fit for purpose. And today we are very grateful to be joined by somebody who has done just that and who has taken the challenge to evolve and take on new systems. And we're going to explore some of the drivers for that change, the risks of staying still, and how to evolve on your own terms for the long-term benefit of your business. So joining me today, I'm very pleased to welcome Priscilla Parrish, who's Head of Logistics at Velocity Commerce and Majority Audio. Welcome along, Priscilla. And also our very own Taylor Burge-Paxson, who is Senior Customer Success Manager here at Zencargo. So welcome to you both, and thanks again for joining today. And could I just ask, before we get into our discussion, for you both to give a little introduction. Priscilla, ladies first.
I'm Priscilla Parrish. I am head of logistics here at Velocity Commerce Majority Audio. I've been in the role now for 2 years. I have a strong background in operations, but my primary focus has always been driving solutions and improvements, and I'm happy to be here.
And my name is Taylor Burge-Paxson. I am a senior account manager here at Zencargo. I've been here for over 1.5 years now. And over that time, I've been able to work with a wide range of businesses from things like day-to-day process improvements, but then also driving some more transformational change within my customer supply chains. Prior to joining Zen, I've been working in the industry in various supply chain, logistics, freight forwarding roles after graduating from a top supply chain program back in 2017. So that's me.
Fantastic. Thank you both. So Priscilla, if you don't mind, can I start with a question for you? Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what your business looked like prior to the work that you started with Zencargo.
So I joined the company in the middle of the pandemic. So that was the first complication. It was actually 2 years ago this month. And so, I was inheriting a legacy system, but I was also inheriting the integration to a new system as well. So I was in the middle of that. Also, container prices were through the roof. They were at an all-time high. There was just a general lack of information and uncertainty across the board. And it was difficult, but I knew what I wanted. I just needed the right person to help guide me to get there.
I think the pain points that Priscilla mentioned are very common when customers are working with more traditional paper-based forwarders. Some businesses have grown quite accustomed to the old ways of working, and because of that, businesses don't really know what good looks like and what kind of efficiency gains can be achieved when operating under best practice with a digital freight forwarder like Zencargo. I've noticed that customers can get quite used to a more transactional relationship with their forwarders, where they may not have had a dedicated project manager or senior account manager like myself that was more involved in driving continuous improvement throughout the relationship, like we do here at Zencargo. In Velocity's case, Priscilla was looking for a more strategic partnership to help guide her through the challenging marketplace at the time, address concerns around reporting and visibility. And because of this, we were able to really hit the ground running, drive a lot of positive change right out of the gate, and overcome some of those typical hurdles that change management represents.
So that's really useful. Thank you both. just picking up on that point then, Taylor, it would be great if you could expand a little bit on how ZenCargo onboards customers and how we work, take that partnership approach to achieve success. So perhaps a little bit about how ZenCargo and Velocity have worked together to sort of achieve some of these goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Velocity's implementation really checked all the boxes of what a successful onboarding looks like. A successful implementation is all about change management and hinges on strong project management principles and collaboration between all the parties in the supply chain. With every onboarding at ZenCargo, a dedicated implementation project manager and a customer success manager like myself is assigned to the account. The project managers are more of a temporary resource there to ensure that a very thorough SOP is developed and to ensure that best-in-class operational process flows are in place. That'll be there for the entirety of the relationship. Customer success managers, on the other hand, are very much the through line of the relationship, with oversight of the implementation process, but also ownership of the relationship as it moves into BAU. So as a customer success manager, I work hand in hand with my customers to understand their supply chains, understand those strategic business objectives that are driving them, and then also leverage resources internally at ZenCargo, working hand in hand with our solutions design team and procurement teams to help drive those strategic outcomes for customers.
Yeah. So I suppose the other thing then, and a question again for Priscilla this time. So obviously you made the decision to make that change. What was the response in your business when you decided to switch to ZenCargo?
I mean, overall, it was very positive because, I displayed the benefits that we were going to gain from doing this. But, there was some reluctance within the company. As I stated before, we were in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah, everyone was just, this is working now, so why change it? Well, because it's not good enough, and everything was still uncertain. So change is always going to be difficult. But my thinking is good planning makes change management really easy. And so if you're the one implementing the change, you have to be the champion of it. You have to be the one who's ultimately responsible for all of the processes that are laid out. So it is just really important to work closely with the people who are helping you, step into the future. And, the biggest pushback we had was from the suppliers, because again, the pandemic, it always worked this way anyway. And change for them is it going to hinder them or is it going to help them? And so for me, it was important to get everyone on board.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, how did you approach that sort of change management process?
Well, again, I'm a woman who knows what I want and I know what good looks like and I knew what we could achieve, but so it was just sort of relying on that expertise, relying on that vision and creating the processes and being collaborative with Taylor and the team and just working it out. And I'm a big proponent of seeing is believing. So being able to show the major stakeholders the platform, being able to show them the functionality of it and, really crucial to demonstrate the practical real-time solutions for current issues that we were facing, the lack of visibility, the lack of, dates and being really, really accurate, and so that was really crucial in making everyone join and be on Team Priscilla and ZenCargo.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have a vision of what you want, I think, isn't it? Taylor, where did you come into the sort of supporting in that change management process?
Well, yeah, I've been involved since day one. So by setting a weekly cadence of touch points with Priscilla and her team, and then setting up direct lines of communication on MS Teams and now Slack, we've been able to build a very collaborative relationship and get a lot of wins under our belt very early on in the relationship. So there is a lot of upfront work to lay the groundwork to build that successful relationship. But it's very important to understand what Velocity's goals are and how to showcase tools to the broader Velocity team and different stakeholders within Velocity. Some of the wins that we were able to get under our belt early on, we were able to audit Velocity SKU and PO catalogs and improve their data quality on their ERP. And then as a result, improve a lot of reporting that was available on the back end. We implemented a PO management workflow and supplier scorecarding to drive accountability down through Velocity's supplier base. And then we created a lot of bespoke reporting for Priscilla to show off to senior stakeholders, showcase things to them like container utilization, optimized modal shift, lead time reductions. And that really helped her validate the hard work that she was doing with Zen. But then, as Priscilla mentioned, we also provided some tools to stakeholders in other departments in Velocity, and that really showed them how we could make their lives easier. So I think by identifying and actioning these kind of improvements early on in the relationship, it can be a big driver in a change management perspective, because if you're making people's lives easier, then they are a lot less resistant to any changes that are being proposed.
Yeah, definitely.
And, that was really integral in getting the turnaround, the quick turnaround. It was probably the most important part of it, was being able to rely on Taylor as a true partner in this adventure that we went on, and being able to get it done from August to October and have our first shipments go out. So yeah, it was really, really great.
We look back fondly on the whole process.
It sounds like a blast. So I mean, obviously, so you've made the decision, you've gone through the implementation process, you've got this huge change management process to go through, getting everybody on board. When did you really start to sort of see the results of that, Priscilla, and sort of think, yes, here it is, here's my vindication?
So it was actually from the very first shipments. We were able to accurately see where the shipment was in the world. We were able to accurately say, oh, this is going to arrive on this date. And we were able to do something that most businesses weren't able to do in that COVID-y period time. We were able to plan. We were able to plan and forecast out because we had that visibility. And that was a huge win for us just right off the bat. And we were placing orders in October, and they were actually showing up and arriving in December and November when they were supposed to. But the biggest thing was actually the split. So as you can see on the slide, we were heavy in FCLs, but we also had quite a lot of LCL shipments. And there was air shipments. I'm opposed to air shipments. And then you can see the change that we had in the last 3 months. We've cut more than half of the LCL shipments and moved almost all to full container loads, because the container utilization was super important for us. And it showed that we were maximizing our shipping at a better cost. And I'm a big proponent of self-service, being able to provide the access to all of the other departments and being able to allow them to see where things were, which reduced the talking points and the touch points for me, which, alleviated some of that pressure in the height of the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my other question would be then, if you could provide some in summary recommendations, if when thinking about, people are thinking about what to look for in a freight forwarder, what would you what are the key points that you might seize on?
You always want to find someone, a data provider, that understands your information and understands what you want to do with it and the shared vision. Also, you need a platform with complete transparency. You need to be able to understand what it's doing in the background and understand everything that's going on. They also have to be super flexible and agile. I mean, we work in a world now where, things turn on the drop of a dime, and you have to be able to be prepared for that. Also, having dedicated resource that I had with Taylor and the team was amazing. I felt supported the entire time, and it really did entrench that true partnership feeling, and I always go back to that, a true partnership with all of my freight forwarders, 3PLs. It has to be a true partnership. It's someone who cares as much about your shipments as they would their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Final word. Anybody that's sort of thinking about this sort of process, or bringing on, trying to get stakeholders on board in their own business, getting people to buy into it, what do what's your key piece of advice, Priscilla, that people can take away?
It's always follow the money. You follow the money. Where's your biggest cost center? What is costing you the most money? Plug that gap, and the stakeholders, they were going to jump on board.
Good advice. Thank you. Taylor, anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, I think like overall change is hard. Change is scary. But I think as long as you're making the case as to how you're making people's lives easier, then it's less of an uphill battle to implement those changes across your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, it becomes an easier sell when you make people's lives easier. So listen, guys, thank you so much. That's I think some really great insights in there, and some great stories to hear. I think you know, and I think particularly Priscilla, having done this, you know, amidst a pandemic is especially impressive. It's never easy at the best of times. But so if you don't mind, because we're coming up on about 5 minutes or so left, if I just we move into a little bit of Q&A, because I can see we have a few questions popping into the chat on the Q&A. So I think this is one a little bit for Priscilla, but Taylor, you may be able to weigh in here as well. You mentioned that there was an initial pushback from the business around change management. And obviously we've touched on kind of how do you get around that? How do you make people responsive? But what is the response from those various stakeholders now? Is it just simply that they have seen the benefits and sort of seeing is believing?
Absolutely. Being able to show, so for me, it's the biggest thing that we did was their container utilization and being able to show them, you know, we're saving money and shipping more. And again, following the money is where, and then now we're working on consolidation as well. So all of these things, changing the way that we worked and changing what we did has now allowed us to become even leaner, become even more agile, and become better at what we do.
Yeah, and I would just add, in terms of getting buy-in from the broader organization, as I mentioned before, there is some work up front in order to give the tools, the analytics, make everyone's lives easier. So once you build those tools and make them available, people become comfortable with them, then it's very much more a self-serve environment, and people get used to kind of the new ways of working, the easier ways of working.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question here around freight spend and cost per unit reporting. Is that something that you've been able to move into?
I think Taylor will be a champion of this as well. It was one of the first things that I asked was, I want a report to show me the actual cost per unit to ship this SKU all year long. And without even a hesitation, yep, we can do that. And it also leads back to having really clean data and making sure all the boxes are ticked. And so, yeah, that was another big win for us in being able to present to finance and all the major stakeholders, look, this is how much this actually costs to ship.
Yeah, I think that landed cost reporting is very important to senior stakeholders across all organizations. And really there is kind of a hurdle to get over in terms of data quality. Like, you need to have your cost price for each individual SKU. So as long as you have like a base level of good data health, then we're able to provide some pretty in-depth landed cost reporting on the back end.
Yeah,
which has gone over very, very well with customers. Everyone seems to be a big fan of it.
Absolutely. A question here, which I think probably is a good one for Taylor. How much does the implementation phase differ depending on the business and or vertical?
Yeah, well, I think like we start with a pretty standard base model for implementation, like making sure that we have the right amount of resources devoted to it. But it can, obviously, we can be pretty agile, as Priscilla said. We can work around specific requirements of our customers. Maybe set different like timelines for how long the implementation is going to take. If it's a more intricate, complex implementation, then we'll devote some more technical resources to it. But again, that's all kind of scoped out pretty early on in the process. So we can take each implementation on a case-by-case basis and devote the right level of resources. Perfect.
And what about, sorry, another question. We've got quite a few questions popping in here. I hope you don't mind. what about container planning? Have you seen any gains in container utilization? Have you been able to improve or change in any way your container planning?
I mean, I'm not going to boast or anything, but my container
Please do.
average for last year was something around 95%, I believe. It was really high. And we was only able to do that because I identified very early on that we weren't utilizing it. We could fit more units of certain SKUs, our highest selling SKUs as well, into containers. And that in itself already produced results on the back end because we were able to sell more and ship, with the same amount of cost. And especially when containers were just insanely costly, these are the types of things that were automatic, immediate wins. And being able to identify that without almost immediately and not 4 or 5 months down the line, it was within the next month I was able to identify this needs to change. We need to put more in this box. So yeah. Container utilization is really high up there on my things.
Yeah, I think it's a very tangible metric to use, especially when you can bring it to the broader business and senior stakeholders and show the very significant increases. It's one of those low-hanging fruit that we tend to see a lot of improvements on pretty early on in stages of working with them.
And it was how we were able to reduce our LCL loads as well. I mean, it didn't make sense to send an LCL when you could marry it up with another shipment or just add a little bit more to it and then send a full container.
Yeah, as you say, especially at a time when fresh air was very expensive.
Exactly.
A last question here, and this is definitely one for Taylor. And I promise I'm not making this up because you're going to enjoy this question. There's a lot of focus on the environment and carbon neutral solutions. Is there anything on the system that can provide such information?
Why, yes, there is. Yeah, so sustainability, CO2 reporting are front and center for Zen Cargo. Obviously, changing consumer demand and regulatory trends. A lot of companies are looking to get ahead of those things. So when you sign up with Zen, you're automatically signed up for our CO2 reporting. So you'll get full scope 3 emissions tracking for all your sea, air, and road shipments. And then with that reporting, it really lays the groundwork for any future sustainability initiatives. And then at that point, we'll give you guys a couple options on how you can action those emissions, depending on your company's philosophy. But we have offsetting options, a wide portfolio of offsetting options where you can get certified emissions reductions on the back end of the emissions, or we have more of like a hard sustainability solution where you can inset those emissions using biofuels versus traditional bunker fuels. And that eliminates 80% of your emissions at source. So yeah, there's a full suite of reporting available to you that breaks it down into many different sub-metrics. And then there is a number of different options on how you can either offset or inset those emissions.
Great. So all that remains for me to say is a big thank you to both of you, Priscilla and Taylor, for joining us this afternoon and for sharing the insights. I think this is a really quite inspirational stuff and really interesting to hear. So thank you for that. And I think with that, we can hand back to Alex.
Fantastic. That was amazing. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Caroline. That was really a great session, which I enjoy listening to. And very much look forward to a follow-up sometime soon. So thank you all very much.